Hi, welcome. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming in and joining. Um, Welcome to our first webinar, How Hackers Are the Modern Day Stalkers. Hackers right now are everywhere and nowhere at the same time, so you don't really know where they are. Hackers are similar to that. Cory Clark, the Director of Threat Intelligence from Solutions Granted. Thank you so much for joining us, Cory.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's see, let's go through your list here. Cybersecurity evangelist. I can never say that word. I'm going to be completely honest.
Evangelist. I preach the word of security to everybody.
And the leader of SOC Elite, threat hunting connoisseur, and eater of crayons. So this is a military reference for sure. Do you want to go ahead and kind of fill them in on that a little bit?
It's just a military reference. So anyway, so obviously, as you can tell from the flag behind me, I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and every branch of service kind of messes with the other branch. And so one of the common gotchas is every other branch will say Marines eat crayons. It's just kind of like a little internal running joke. So sometimes you have to eat, hey, red's the best flavor. So that's all I can say.
Yeah. And then if you guys don't know, I'm Sherry Arthur. I'm the marketing manager for Central Technology Solutions. We're a managed IT company, and yeah, and basically I guess I'm a marketing guru, a Monday fanatic. If you don't see our memes, you're missing out. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. And a Krav Maga enthusiast on the side. I love Krav Maga. That was I kind of added that in there because we will kind of be pulling in some aspects of that throughout the webinar. Basically, you know, if you're protecting yourself from the outside world, you should also be protecting yourself from hackers. So that's kind of my little input there. I don't eat crayons, but you know. So let's get started.
Day's still early, you know?
Oh, yeah, right. All right, Cory, let's go ahead and dive in. How do hackers pick their target? What's something that hackers look for when it comes to attacking someone?
Of course. So we're going to be using a bunch of analogies today. Some might say we're digging a little deep here, but there's a lot of commonalities between someone that's going to break into your house and someone that's going to break into your network. So between people that break into robbers and hackers, very similar in the tactics that they use. So obviously the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to case the place, right? They're going to walk around, they're going to figure out what's the easiest target that's going to give me the best reward. Now think about, was it Home Alone, right? So there's that movie, everybody knows what that is. And the robbers, the wet bandits, were going around and they were casing the neighborhood, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best house that we can hit? Now they identified a house, Kevin McAllister's house, and decided, okay, let's go in there and let's see if it's got any value in there. So he pretended to be a police officer, went into the house, found out that they're going to be leaving town. So that's an easy target for them. They're not going to be home, right? And he was looking around inside to see if there's anything worthwhile to take from him, in there. So same thing happens with hackers. They're going to figure out, okay, what's my easy targets? What has the best value? They could be finding this information on the news. So maybe your company just got some funding and it was publicly announced. Maybe you're an entity that holds a lot of key information, right? Whether it's financial information, medical information, something that they can use to basically hold it against you so that you will pay them back for that information, or that they can sell on the dark web to other people. So let's talk about easy targets, right? So you look at a house and you can look at the house that we have here and see, okay, is this an easy target? Potentially, yes, right? You see the windows, first story windows. They can check out the doors to see, okay, are they unsecured? They can figure out when you're home and when you're not home. Now, compare that to something like this, it's going to make it a little more difficult, right? So it looks like this person at this house put a lot of thought and money into protecting their house. So, for example, putting the windows on the doors, having cameras out there to detect if someone's nearby. I mean, you can think about the Ring doorbells that are out there. Now, equate that to the IT industry. And are you using a firewall? Do you have servers that are publicly accessible? Is your credentials out there somewhere? Did your credentials get stolen from another breach? Now, once they do that, they have to figure out if it's worth what they're coming in for. So again, they're going to find this information out on some type of news, social media, or even when they get in, they're just going to poke around. They're going to say, okay, is this company worth hitting? Now, once they've done that, once they've figured out, okay, here's my target, how am I going to get in? Now, first off, they can check the front door. Now, this is the equivalent of having compromised credentials. Your credentials can get compromised in so many different ways. Whether it was if you remember, Target got breached and all of that information got taken. So there's a good possibility if you had a Target account, you're using the same exact password there that you're using at your office, which is a big no-no. Or they're going to hit you with a phishing email. So they're going to send you an email to trick you into providing your credentials. And now they have that information. Now they're going to log in as that. Now they can check the back door of your house. This equation is similar to having servers that are not behind a firewall. So a firewall is what protects your network from the outside world, right? It is your gate, your wall. So if you don't have one of those, well, no matter what you do to secure your front door, that back door is wide open. Then they can also check windows, right? How many times have you left your windows open at your house? Well, this is the equivalent to vulnerabilities within your environment. Most people use Microsoft, right? I use Microsoft at my house. We use Microsoft here at our organization. And Microsoft has acknowledged we have known vulnerabilities. We have issues with our product. So that's why they send out patches every Tuesday or every second Tuesday of the month. And if we're not installing those patches, we're not acknowledging that the vendor is saying we have an issue, you have a hole in your security, you need to patch it.
I think another point is when somebody is there, like at the house, and compared to like when they're not there at the house. So a most recent attack was on July 4th. Cory, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Right. So they're going to find how can we go undetected? How can we get in this environment and make sure no one sees us? So they're going to leverage us, social engineering. So one of the biggest attacks was on July 4th for a very large IT RMM tool. And they intentionally targeted July 4th because they knew most people in the United States were going to be away for an extended period of time. So they're going to leverage these holidays. Those are the times that we see the most uptick in compromises, breaches, attempted hacks, viruses, are during holidays when no one's there. Or they're going to wait for the nighttime. Similar to why people break into houses at night, because it's easier to go undetected. Well, they know we're sleeping, and most companies aren't monitoring what's happening in their work environment after hours. Now, we can also think about it as far as, when you look at your house do you have alarms? Do you have a dog that's going to bark when someone's by your house? Well, you need that same type of equation for your work environment. So when you're not there, so you constantly need someone monitoring what's happening. Now, once they get in, they still want to go undetected. So I'm not going to use the term back in the day, right? But what used to happen is they would come in full force, hit you with an infection, steal your information, destroy things, and get out, right? That's changed. So now what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll do what I call reconnaissance. They figured a way into your house. So now they're going to slowly move around so they can go undetected. So they can be in your environment a week, a month, even a year. And while they're in there, they're poking and prodding to try to figure out, okay, what information do you have? Is it valuable? If I encrypt you, are you going to give me money to get your information back? Is it worth my time? And even if they decide at that moment it's not worth their time, they're just going to leave a back door open so they can come in and check later. If I'll use an example of Bob's Bagel. If Bob's Bagel just opened up his business and he didn't have good IT security, bad guys come in and they're not really seeing much. It's not worth their time. They don't think Bob will pay if they steal his information, pay for it to get back. But they'll leave that back door. They'll give him time for his business to grow so that once he becomes successful, boom, we're going to hit them. We're going to steal his data and sell it back to him. We can look at Marriott, for example, the hotel chain. So Marriott had one of the biggest breaches I've seen, and the bad guys were in there for a very long time. Now, the reason that they were in there is one, they were going undetected, but think about how Marriott does its business. They're getting new transactions from new people on a daily basis. So the longer the hackers are in there, the longer that they're getting more credit card information and PII, or user information. So let's
Yeah.
go on to the next one here. So we talked about the analogies, right? So we talked about how they're going to go in there. They're going to try to remain dormant. They're going to try to go undetected. They're going to figure out if you're a good candidate to be infected or not. It can take a long time. So we got to talk about what can we do to stop this. Now, you saw what I did to the house, right? I put a bunch of cameras up. I put, bars on the doors. Most people aren't going to do that. You can put the Ring doorbell up. But we need to break this out into 3 different scenarios, because when it comes to security, whether it's physical or digital, prevention mechanisms will fail. So you need the ability to detect that something has happened so that you can take some form of response. So let's start with the IT world on what we can do to prevent someone from taking your information or compromising you. Now, we have core components. So when it comes to your IT security stack, it has to be layered, because again, there is no one set solution. Now, the core components of any security stack is a firewall, an antivirus, and some form of email security. Those are the most common things that you can put into place that have to be into place for you to be protected. Now, as you see on the slide, we're recommending what's called a next-gen firewall or next-gen antivirus. Um, Unfortunately, next-gen has become a buzzword in the IT industry. Everything is next-gen. Every vehicle is now next-gen, right? You can't buy anything now that's not next-gen. But what that means is they're using newer technologies, because the technologies that we used 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, don't necessarily work today. The bad guys are consistently changing what they're doing, so we have to do the same. We have to pivot just like them. By the way, every time I say pivot, I think of the Friends movie. Anyways, or Friends show. Anyways, and so we have to pivot as well with them to stay ahead of them, or at least side by side with them, to stop them from doing what they want to do. So having a next generation firewall, because most of the data that's transferred across the internet now
That's really crucial. I think nowadays a lot of people are kind of overwhelmed with like, oh, I need 12 characters. Like, I'm just going to use my child's first name and their birthday. No, everybody does that. You
Everybody.
pick 3 random words or create a story through your passwords, and of course, having that two-factor authentication and a password management, like storing all of that safely, that helps tremendously.
Yeah, research has shown that the latest craze right now is the year and the season.
Yeah.
So summer 2021, when my password expires, fall 2021. And guess what? You have to use a special character. So what special character are you going to throw at the end?
Exclamation point.
An exclamation mark, because everybody does it.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
I think
Use
another
something.
good point is a lot of, we put out a CTS weekly breach, and this basically highlights all the big companies. Let's be honest, a lot of big companies do get hacked, but also small businesses get hacked as well. But we highlight how they get hacked and what was the impact to that business. The most recent one and really kind of popular was the T-Mobile hacking. They got hacked, and over 100 million customers, all of their information got thrown out into the dark web. It was so popular that TikTok talked about it. That's how you know this was something. So, whether your information is safe with what you do, I think just always being aware of who you have as a user, whether it's your phone server or carrier, making sure that their information and how are they storing your information. If they get hacked, you better know you got to go back in and make sure all your information is backed up, it's safe, or it's changed.
Exactly. Awesome.
All right, what's next?
So again, prevention can only get you so far. It is the core essential thing you have to be focused on first and foremost, but you need a backup plan, right? Because if someone really wants to target you, if they try hard enough and they're smart enough, it's going to happen. They're going to find a hole. Just like with someone's house, they're going to find a way to get in if they really want to. So we need a way of detecting what's happening. Now, again, these won't stop things from happening, but they'll be the alert, the alarm, the tripwire that something has happened so that we can take some form of recourse or some type of action to stop what they're doing. So coming through CTS, you're getting that 24/7, 365, every day of the week, every hour of the day, you're getting those security services. Right? So someone is actively monitoring what's happening on the network, what's happening on these endpoints. So if something gets past those prevention mechanisms, if there's some weird anomalistic behavior, someone is actively looking into it. Then we have dark web monitoring. So we said the term dark web a few times in this. The dark web is not just some Hollywood make-believe thing. It is real. There is a community, right, that we call the dark web of malicious people. And what they're doing is they're sharing information. So a lot of times when a state nation will attack an organization, they're usually attacking governments. They'll release the information out to the normal everyday hacker community, right? Happened with the Keystone Pipeline, happened with a couple of the other breaches, right? It was attacked by a state nation, and then they said, okay, well, we got our information. Here's information to the rest of you. Do what you want with it, buy it, sell it, whatever. So being able to monitor what's happening on the dark web, if your information out there, it's a good key detection. And the sooner that you learn that your account's been compromised, the sooner you can recover from it. So it doesn't turn into something, escalate into something bigger. External network scans. So your external network is obviously scanning how someone can get into your network. So checking for holes, checking for vulnerabilities. If you have a firewall, checking to make sure that you're licensed. I've seen too many instances where someone's not checking the licenses on their firewall, and now it's just a glorified router, meaning someone can just come on in. Hey, but I have a firewall, but you haven't licensed it in 3 years, so nothing's turned on. So you need those professionals to help you configure your firewall. And then you need those professionals to constantly validate, is there any potential holes? Then vulnerability management kind of goes in with patch management, scanning for known vulnerabilities. New vulnerabilities come out on a weekly basis. I would say daily, but I'm just going to go with weekly to keep it safe. So as these vulnerabilities come out, some of them don't have patches. including Chrome, Google Chrome. It's had known vulnerabilities since 2015 that have never been patched. So you have to understand what these vulnerabilities are and how you can counteract for them.
Yeah, and detection at the end of the day is understanding your tools and being aware of what your tools can protect you from. Going back to my personal Krav Maga training, you have different tools such as a knife, a gun, or whatever else, but what you know about those tools and what they can provide value to you up against a fight, that's where you actually feel protected. Now, when it comes back to the IT aspect, having the dark web monitoring, understanding that you do have someone watching your network 24/7 and you're getting reports, you're getting feedback, you have vulnerability management, that is adding to you and as your business personally, so you can go up against the fight. You can say, okay, look, I got my people, they got my back 24/7. When I'm sleeping, they're still watching. You have these tools that you do feel protected. You do feel this confidence saying, okay, I can move forward. And at the end of the day, detection, it's underrated. I feel like that's something that not a lot of people are really talking about, but it's something that it needs to be at the forefront.
Exactly.
What's next?
Awesome. All right, so we talked about prevention, detection, and now we need recovery. Because once we hit the detection thing, something has happened. So we need to be able to recover from it. So first and foremost, you need trained professionals to assist you. Geek Squad's not going to do it. I'm sorry. So you need trained professionals in the IT industry to assist and help with one, patching, making sure your computer is configured right, having someone to call in the event that something weird is happening so they can tell you if it really is something bad or if it's just Windows, right? We all know how that goes. Then you also need a good backup solution. That is your really only true recovery. So if the bad guys, if you had something misconfigured or the bad guys found a huge hole in your environment and they used it against you and they, for example, encrypted you with ransomware and took all your files and encrypted them, you need a good backup solution to be able to recover and restore those files. And a little pro tip, I like giving pro tips, just plugging in a simple little USB drive into a computer is not going to do it. Because if I hit that computer and I run an encryption, guess what's encrypted? Everything on that USB drive. So your backups are useless. So you need to be able to back up your files and have them stored somewhere else. So in the event that something happens, it hits the fan, you can recover all those files and all that data. I don't like paying ransoms. I don't like giving other people money for my own data.
If you even get it back.
Yeah. Then having a good plan, right? It's crucial before something happens that you have a good disaster recovery plan, right? We kind of do it in our everyday lives, right? Hey, if this happens, I've done it with my child who's now in middle school. It's the first time I've given her a phone to store in her backpack because now she's doing volleyball, now she's doing after hours activities, and I need a plan that if she needs to reach me, she can reach me, right? Because a lot of times the school isn't going to do it. So she now has her cell phone. That's one of my disaster recovery plans. I work 5 minutes. I can just leave here, go down there, do what I need to do. Or when our children were younger and I'm sure you remember this, when the earthquake hit the DC region, right? I was working in DC. My wife was working on a military installation and our children were at daycare. And so we needed to devise some plan that if something happened, because we got caught with the earthquake, none of the cell phones worked, all the towers went down, you couldn't call anybody, right? We came up with a better plan that if something like this happens again, how can we get home? Who's going to be the person? Who's going to be the go-to? So we need something like that. If something happens within your organization, how do we respond? Who's the first person we call? What do we turn off? What's the order?
Yeah, I think the best company that actually got attacked and they had their disaster recovery plan on their website was that said IT company we talked about at the beginning of this webinar. You would go onto their website and at the top they're like, hey, here's everything that we've done. And you click on it and they will give you a whole list. They said, okay, we examined this section, we put a patch on this, we examined another section, this failed, this was a success. They mentioned what was a success and what was a fail. That went above and beyond, not only because they're an IT company and they had to say, hey, okay, you know, it's not about if, it's about when and how bad, and we were next. But they wanted the customers and their partners to be aware that they are taking the necessary protocols and they're letting everybody know about it. That was something that truly impressed me, and that's something that I think most businesses should do. It doesn't matter. I think nowadays it really doesn't matter if it's this whole oh, you've been hacked, oh, I'm sorry, you're kind of below us. No, at the end of the day, it's 2021. Now let's make sure if you do get hacked, you have a plan. And that plan is strong, and you let everybody know about it, saying, hey, yeah, we goofed up, or hey, we got into it. We're getting ourselves out now, and this is how we're doing it. I think showcasing that, it kind of goes back to your reputation. That kind of adds to your reputation more than devalues you if you get attacked.
Exactly. And I've just seen too many instances where no one even has a basic discovery plan, right?
Yeah.
Where something happens, like, okay, what do we do now? Who do we call? I don't know. Let's just call this person.
Let's
It's not
call
a good way to do it. You know, let's call the police. Our computers are encrypted. They're not going to help. So even if you start with a basic plan of what you do internally, and then work with professionals on what you do technically when something does happen, it needs to be outlined before an incident occurs.
Yeah. Last one. This is my favorite. This is something that really hits home, I feel like, with a lot of people. Your cybersecurity shouldn't end at your computer. What does this mean, Cory?
So obviously, when someone's on a computer, it's been instilled in their brain. It's muscle memory, security, security, security. We're at work, right? Our information is important. But it seems like it stops there. People only acknowledge cybersecurity when they're at their work, their place of business, and they forget about all of the rest of the things that are happening in their everyday lives. So we'll go down the list here. So you look at your social media platforms, right? And Facebook, for those that are still using Facebook, what is open? What is viewable to everybody else? Do you have a private profile? Or can they see everything that's happening, including all of your personal information that they can use against you? Or you looked at something like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the Facebook of the corporate America, right? Everybody posts everything on there. Here's what I do. And, you know, I like to give these scenarios to people that if I turned over to the dark side and put on a, you know, make my room super dark, put on a hoodie and some sunglasses to stare at my computer screen. You've all seen those images.
Go in mama's basement and everything.
You know, one of the things I can do, we'll go back to phishing. Remember, phishing is the, you know, email is the largest attack surface bar none, includes the most, you know, infections that happen start with email. So let's say I wanted to target company A. One, I can look at their website. I can see, okay, do they have jobs open? I can use social engineering, and I can say, pretend like I'm trying to get a job to get more information about the company. I can get emails back and forth from someone over at HR at that company. What that will do for me is provide me their email address. That's all I need is their email address. Because with that information, if I can learn anybody else's name at that company, I know their email address. So maybe it's their first initial last name at company name, or maybe it's full first name, period, full last name at company. Now I'm going to go on LinkedIn. Again, corporate America's Facebook. I'm going to look up that company. I'm going to find out who their accounting people are, who's their CFO, and I'm going to target them. I'm going to send them an email saying, hey, I have this past due invoice. I'm trying to pay it. I don't know what it is. And it's going to be an attachment, or it's going to have a link that sends them to a file out there and, you know, on my Google Drive or something like that. And they're going to open it. And as soon as they open it, it's going to run a script. And it's going to say, for security purposes, because everybody loves security, especially when they're at their place of office. For security purposes, I need you to put in your user credentials to validate you are who you are. And that sounds good. Thank you for being secure with this financial information. Let me put in my information. Cory Clark, password 123, exclamation mark. Let's not forget that at the end, right? And so it's going to open up an invoice and I'm just going to stare at it and have no idea what it is. And it's going to take me a while to research this and get back. It could take me days, weeks, right? Until I get back to the person. But by then it's still already too late, because as soon as I put in that user information, it sent it over to me.
Yeah, and I think also another point to bring up with the social media aspect is recently there's a cybersecurity threat, in essence, for not only parents but also for their kids. All the kids are going back to school. All the moms and the dads want to have the sign, first day picture where they're holding the sign saying, "My name is, this is my class, this is what I want to do growing up." That's a huge threat for not only the child, but also the parents, because going back to the mothers possibly using the child's name and date of birth, if you're really invested, if you're a sought after CEO and a hacker really wants to get your information and you don't really know much about cybersecurity, they probably have your password right there with the child holding the picture saying, "This is basically my mother's password or father's password," or whatever. I think that's something that's coming out right now that not everybody is understanding it. It's a threat, or rather a weakness, and we got to be aware of what we're posting. Having your password private, having your platform private, rather.
Yeah, and I see it on a monthly basis, especially on something like Facebook, where I'll get a message from someone that I know. My latest one was my aunt that
Yeah.
just said hi, and a random message. Oh, apparently she created a new profile. Like, okay, hi, Aunt B. Nice to see you again. And then the conversation just gets very weird.
Yeah.
Well, because Aunt B failed to adhere to any form of security, has been filling out these cool little surveys on Facebook. What is your spirit animal, right? And
Yeah.
to fill out these surveys, to find out what your spirit animal is, you have to put in your Facebook password so that they can post it for you. But it's also sending it to someone, over in Romania or something. And then they're creating a new account. They're pretending to be you. They're sending out all these fake messages as you to basically hit more people.
So let's talk about smishing. What is this?
Smishing. So it's one of my favorites. So we talked about email and phishing, right? Where they're pretending to be someone else. They're putting that line out there to see who will hook on it. Smishing is the equivalent to SMS phishing, right? So your cell phones, your mobile devices like tablets, again, we said this earlier, everyone has security instilled in them when they're at their IT environment. But as soon as they're on their mobile devices, they forget all about it. So they're just sitting on here, texting away, typing away. Yeah, let me see what's going on in the weather, whatever. And then boom, they get an SMS message. So going back to, if I put on that malicious hat, before I do phishing, I would definitely explore smishing. So let's run a scenario like I did with the phishing attack. So I'm in my area code here is either 703 or 571, right? So I have the first three of the seven numbers. And then I'm going to look around. I'm going to do a little survey. I'm going to find out what's the most popular bank here. And let's say it's Bank of America. I'm going to impersonate that I'm with Bank of America, because more than likely, your bank, you have an app on your phone for that bank, right? Don't shake your head, because I don't want to know if you do, right? So more than likely you have that app on there. So I'm going to send you a text message impersonating to be Bank of America. And I don't even have to know your email address, because I'm sending it to the phone number. So I'm just going to blast it out to thousands of phone numbers that start with 703 and 571. Hey, we noticed some malicious activity on your account. Click on this link so that you can double check and cancel these activities, right? So what's going to end up happening? They're going to click on the link because it's a text message. And oh, I do have Bank of America. Thank you, Bank of America, for saving me. When they click on that link, it's going to ask them for security purposes, validate you are who you are. And now you just sent me your username and your password, right? Thank you so much for that. And just because I'm a jerk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to also have it install a Bank of America security application on your phone. So you want to guess what that's going to do? Well, it's going to give me direct access to your phone. Now, we talked earlier about two-factor authentication, right? Having that extra code, or even receiving that extra text message from your bank. So now if I have direct access to your phone, because I installed that app on there called Bank of America Security, now I can get that code. Now all the codes that you're using for two-factor authentication, I have direct access to all of them. So these things are single point of failures. And we have to use the same, if not more security behind how we use mobile devices compared to how we use computers. Because everything about us, access to everything is going to be on our mobile devices now.
Yep. The last one kind of, free, and we put free there as a kind of a hook, but it's free Wi-Fi or hotspot rather. This is a different concept I recently came across, and I'm petrified of free Wi-Fi hotspot. And this kind of goes back around to how hackers are the modern day stalkers. Cory, can we kind of go a little bit more into what free Wi-Fi hotspot is?
Free Wi-Fi. Everybody needs Wi-Fi, right? It's the biggest thing I hear complaining from my daughter is, oh, is there Wi-Fi here? Let me get on the Wi-Fi. So I'm assuming you've heard of the conference called Black Hat. It's one of the biggest conferences around IT security, and good guys go there, bad guys go there. And one of the biggest things they always tell you before entering is turn off your phone before you go in there. And the reason for it is because you have active free hotspots for Wi-Fi that the bad guys have set up to make a point. Most phones now, and you have to disable it, will actively look for Wi-Fi. And they will automatically connect to it when you walk in. Or if you previously walked in, Starbucks, biggest thing, right? We've all connected to a Wi-Fi called Starbucks. It is an open Wi-Fi. You don't have to have a special code for it. It's free. So all I have to do is go into Starbucks or sit outside in my car and have a device that's going to blast out a free Wi-Fi called Starbucks. And so your phone's going to say, oh, I've connected to Starbucks before. And it's now connecting to my Wi-Fi spot. Guess what? I am giving you free internet access. You're welcome. But I'm also grabbing and capturing everything that you're doing. All of the information that's coming into my device is being saved. So now I have your passwords. Now I know what you're looking at. Now I have direct access to your device. I can turn on your camera, take some cool little pictures of you, right? This is what happens, and this is why it's so important that you don't just connect to any free Wi-Fi hotspot that's out there. I'll tell you, I travel a lot now, and anytime I go to a hotel, if I have to connect to the hotel Wi-Fi, because most times I'm hotspotting my phone, right? Because that's more secure than connecting to a public Wi-Fi. And as soon as I connect to that public Wi-Fi, I'm immediately initiating a VPN connection that will encrypt all of my data. I'm ensuring that my firewall on that workstation is turned on so no one can see me. They don't know what I'm doing. They can see some encrypted data, but it's encrypted, so sophisticated, it's going to take them a very, very long time to be able to decrypt that data.
Yeah, I think this last part in a nutshell is where people kind of think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. It probably has happened to you. You just don't know about it. Going back to the beginning where we talked about the dark web monitoring, we have a platform or have access rather, where if you give us your email, we will type it in and we will show you what information is on the dark web. Literally pulling it out of the dark web, saying, okay, here's what has been sold, or here is what is up for sale. Are you interested in changing your password now? And at the end of the day, changing a password, it's not that difficult. If you have a lock on your phone, you're spending maybe 5 seconds to unlock it to get into your phone. With the two-factor authentication, same concept. You're spending not even maybe 2 to 5 seconds to say, yes, this is me. Here's the code. Here I am. And now you're into your Facebook or Instagram or whatever. At the end of the day, I think people are so focused on, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or my time is too valuable. Okay, well, when you get a ransomware attack, now your time is valuable, more so, and you have to now pay it out possibly. And we can go into that on another date. But that's at the end of the day, hackers are your modern day stalkers. And this, in a nutshell, is what they do. And this is just basic level, very basic.
Yeah, some do it for fun. Some do it for financial gain. Both are just as vicious. Actually, I'd be more scared of the people that just do it for fun.
Yeah. So that concludes our webinar. If you have any questions, there is a chat bubble. I'm not sure if you're on a computer or on a phone, but you'll see a little bubble that has 2 lines in it. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in and say, hey, can you talk a little bit more about X, Y, or Z? And we'll feel free to answer them. In the meantime, Cory, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's all I got. Thank you for inviting me to the webinar.